Welcome everyone to today's webinar on streamlining the modeling of architectural elements with Naviate architecture. This is part of an entire webinar series. If you've joined us for our previous webinars, today we're looking at the modeling features within Naviate architecture, and we're going to go ahead and get started. This will be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube channel so that you can share it with other people, or in case you miss anything, look back on it, as well as we will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions throughout this webinar, please feel free to add it in the questions dialog in the GoToWebinar, and we will get to answering them at the end of the webinar. I want to get started with introducing myself. My name is Sheer Ehrlich, and I am today's presenter. I am the Naviate Accelerate product owner. I do have a background in architecture. I studied architecture at Pratt Institute, and I've also worked as a BIM manager in a variety of different architectural firms over the last around 10 years, I would say. And you know, like many of you, hopefully, I've been using Revit, and I was getting really frustrated with how inefficient sometimes Revit can be. And I started to look at other options. I started to teach myself Dynamo and utilizing Dynamo a lot. But when it came to helping out other people, whether that be the customers I was working with, consulting at, or even my fellow team members, I realized that Dynamo isn't always the best approach, as sometimes it can be really difficult to learn. So that's when I started looking at joining the Naviate team to help build different applications to help different people, whether that be our customers or my fellow team members, work smarter in Revit. And if anyone is new to Naviate, I always like to start with a little introduction of what Naviate is. And so with Naviate, we are really an entire product line. We are one team for all trades, one solution to streamline your workflows, an entire ecosystem of different products, right? We're more than just one product for Revit, but we are a portfolio of products. When we have our Naviate for Revit products, our Naviate for cloud products, and our Naviate for Civil 3D products. So we are really looking at multiple aspects to help you work within the entire Autodesk ecosystem. And with that, we are really one Naviate portfolio. So within our Naviate for Revit product line, we have our product for all, which is Naviate Accelerate, and then we have discipline-specific products. So we have products for architecture, structure, MEP, site and landscaping, fabrication, and more. Also, our Cloud Manager products, which is part of our Naviate for Cloud to help manage BIM 360 and ACC. So that's what kind of differentiates Naviate from everything else that is out there, because we have discipline-specific products, things that are focused on all of the different trades. And because of that, I always like to say that it is products developed by AEC professionals for AEC professionals. Like myself, I'm an architect and I came to work with Naviate, and most of our other product owners and our engineers are also in the industry. They know the issues, and we're helping to build products that solve those issues. Today, we're going to focus on Naviate architecture, of course, me being an architect, and also the fact that this is a Naviate architecture webinar. And for those of you who don't know, Naviate Accelerate, which is our product for all, comes free with Naviate architecture. So you get two products for the price of one, Naviate architecture and Naviate Accelerate, where Accelerate is the product for all. Naviate architecture has the commands and features that are focused on the categories in Revit that architects care most about. We're talking about doors, windows, rooms, walls, ceilings, floors. These are the things that we're, as architects, utilizing the most in Revit, building the most in Revit, working the most in Revit, and Naviate architecture has commands and features that work with those categories. So let's talk about what Naviate is trying to solve. We're really looking at holistically the entire BIM project lifecycle within Revit. We have commands and features that are targeting project setup, data management, modeling, and documentation or document management. Now within this webinar series, we are having a webinar focused on each of these different parts of the project lifecycle. We looked at project setup with our first webinar. We looked at data management with our second webinar. And today we're looking at how Naviate assists you with modeling in Revit. Next, we'll look at document management. So we're going to look at how to use Naviate as an architect, specifically at the modeling features. I do want to highlight, because in the last webinar, I gave you a little sneak peek of what is in our, at that time, soon to be released. Now it is officially released. We have released the 2023.1.4 version of Naviate Architecture and Accelerate. So make sure that if you're using this, that you have the latest version downloaded so you can get the newest updates and the newest features, some of which I will be showing you today. But we have updates to our door and window drawings and our room drawings, and a ton of new features in Naviate Accelerate, as well as a ton of updates. So make sure to check this out. You can check it out on the website to learn about all of the new features and the updates, and make sure to download the new version. So in today's webinar, like I said, we're focused on modeling. We're going to look at 5 different workflows that highlight the different modeling features within both Naviate Architecture and Accelerate. First, we're going to look at placing families from a network or local location, making it really easy to find families that are within your content library, let's say, and place them into your projects. Then we're going to look at aligning different elements, specifically aligning walls, and then aligning other elements to surfaces. Then we're going to look at creating different finishes for our rooms, then managing curtain grid layouts. Lastly, we're going to look at modeling some sloped roofs. So let's start with placing families. Now, when you have your own content library within your company that's usually located on a network or local locations, it's not the easiest to be inserting those families into your different projects. But with Naviate, this is made easy with our family browser. We're able to see all the families either on our network or local location, or all the families in our own current project, get data about that family, and then place it into our view, making it easy to work on our design, import or insert multiple families at once, and manage it easily. So let's take a look at how to use the Naviate Family Browser. This Naviate Family Browser is located in Naviate Accelerate. You'll see that I have at the top the folders tab, where I can select from any folder location I have access to. I can even add multiple folder locations and see all of the subfolders within that folder location. Here I've organized, for example, all of my doors into this one folder. And when I select a door, now this is not a door that's in my project, so I can see some of the parameters associated with it and all the types. If I right click it, I can edit that family, which will open the edit family mode, as well as load it. I can even drag and drop it onto the view, which will make it the active family, and I can begin placing it very easily where I need to, so I can update my design. Next, let's look at a different folder location, like our furniture. This will give me little icons that I can easily see what the different furniture looks like. I haven't modified this for these families specifically to show this. Naviate is just looking at that 3D view, or if there's no 3D element, the 2D view, to see what that element looks like, so that I can drag and drop multiple different families onto my view and easily place them where it needs to be. This command is modeless, so I can work, open multiple views, go 3D, 2D, change those views up, and get my design the way I want it. not only can we have access to our network or folder locations, but we can also see all of the families loaded in our project and do the exact same thing. So I can easily see them with the little axons and then drag and drop them onto the view if I need to. So this not only makes it easy to work with families in my own project, but also any families that I have in a content library. So now that we've gone ahead and placed some families, let's look at aligning families. Now, let's do a little imagination. Picture this. You've been working on your design in AutoCAD, let's say, because we all work in AutoCAD. Sometimes it's just easier to work in a DWG setting. And you've spent all this time, you're linking that DWG into Revit and adjusting your own design, right? By aligning the walls to the new placement location. But of course, in AutoCAD, the lines weren't exactly straight, which doesn't really make a difference until you bring it into Revit and you start getting all those warnings that these walls are slightly off axis, making it really difficult to dimension things to that wall, but also bogging up your model with warnings. The Naviate Align feature will help us fix all of that and help us quickly update our designs to a DWG. So here I have my DWG file, and I'm going to align my walls to this new design. Happens all the time, right? Whether that design came from a colleague or I did it myself. But lo and behold, that DWG did not have straight lines. Even though it looks straight, they are slightly off axis. And with every wall that I align, I am getting multiple warnings that my line is slightly off axis. This is going to make it really difficult to dimension to these walls, as well as give me a ton of warnings. Let's take a look at those warnings with our Naviate warning handler. I can see here that line in sketch is slightly off axis, causing inaccuracies, and how many warnings just a few walls that I tried to align brought into my model. Now with Naviate Architecture, we have our simple align walls feature. This will allow me to align my walls to either a shared coordinate, a Revit internal coordinate, or by picking a guide like a grid. I can align both or either horizontal or vertical elements, and I can specify a threshold or a rotation angle, and then simply select all the views visible in the wall, all the walls visible in the view or in the entire model. Once I reload my warnings, we'll see that they all disappeared, and now I'm able to continue doing other things. Let's go ahead and hide that DWG for now and focus on the doors that now need to get updated to the new design. Once I move my walls around, I want to adjust my doors as well so that they're all spaced at a specific distance away from the wall, right? They're kind of all scattered because the walls changed at different distances. Now, this command does work in 3D view, and this is a new command in this new release, by the way. Well, here I can see which walls I need to move in my 3D view. I'm going to use the Naviate Live Selection feature to quickly select all the doors that I want to adjust, and then use my new Move to Nearest feature, which allows me to move elements to the nearest other surface, being ceilings, roofs, floors, walls, etc., with lots of different options, including selecting these walls that are in a link model. Then I can specify an offset. So in this case, I want all my doors to be 10 inches away from the adjacent wall, and then use the X, Y, or Z to shift them over, and it'll shift them to the next adjacent wall, being that distance away from it. So it makes it really easy to not just align elements to other elements, but also clean up all of my walls that are slightly off axis based off of aligning it to something like a DWG. So we've looked at placing families, we've looked at aligning families. Let's look at creating some elements as well from scratch. So we're going to look at creating some finishes here, our floor, wall, or ceiling finishes. Now, specifically, we're going to do in this example just floors and ceilings. And with Revit out of the box, this can be a really tedious, repetitive task. Let's look at floors, for example. We're going to be selecting to create a finished floor. Now I have to, for every single room that I want to create this finished floor in, adjust the boundary of it. I mean, it makes it a little bit easier that I can pick walls or I can pick lines to create the boundary, but I have to do that for every single floor, and then continue to do it for every single room that I need to create this floor in. Same thing for ceilings. I mean, ceilings, luckily, they're a little bit easier, right? Because we can use that automatic sketch where I can pick, the room and it automatically sketch it, but I still have to do it for every single room. So again, this is something that is going to be really repetitive. Well, Naviate's create covering features takes all of that repetition away by allowing me to select all of the rooms that I want to create either a finished floor or ceiling or wall for, and it automatically does it for me. So let's take a look at how we do that. And not only are we going to do it by picking just random rooms, I'm going to take it a step further and use Naviate's selection features to help me more easily and in a smarter way select what rooms I'm creating finishes for. So we're going to start with doing that selection, right? We're going to use our Naviate filters. And these Naviate filters are really easy to use because it's the same concept as using the Revit rule-based filters. Because the rule-based filters, what do? You select a category, select some parameters, and create your rule. Equals, contains, doesn't contain, greater than, you get it, because you've done it for the visibility and graphics. This is the same thing, but you're creating Naviate filters. And what's a great thing about the Naviate filters is that it's not going to bog up your model with a bunch of filters that you need just for selecting things. It allows you to separate what filters you need for selecting things and what filters you need for your visibility and graphics settings. I can save as many filters as I need in my Naviate filters. So here you can see I created a filter for all the different room types. In this example, we just have 4 different room types that I'm going to be creating these finishes for. Once I have my filters created, I'm going to use my quick filter elements. Now, quick filter elements has been updated in this latest release to now include the ability to not just select Naviate filters, but also select utilizing Revit rule-based filters and safe selection filters, as well as updating to allow for select, select and hide, and select and isolate. We're going to use this to select our elements and then use the create coverings to create those finishes. So here I can easily see all of my Naviate filters that I've created and use it to select those rooms. Not just is it selecting it in this view, but selecting everything that the filter contains. So in my entire project, essentially. And then I can select the floor and ceiling types. Again, this is actually creating the actual floor and ceiling elements. And I can select from all the types that I've already have created in my project, and it's going to create them based off of my room geometry. It's gonna also create an individual ceiling or floor for every single room that I'm selecting. So this is going to be lightning fast compared to the out-of-the-box Revit, where I would have to go into not only every single view, but every single not crop boundary, but boundary of the floor to create them for the individual rooms. Here I can select it by type and even specify offsets for my ceilings or my floors so I can customize the ceiling height. So now that all of our floors are created, let's take a look at that in 3D. So I can show you that it is this 3D element that we're creating. It's not just a graphical thing or a hatch pattern. It is those floor and ceiling elements that are being created in those rooms. And you can see it wasn't just on the level that I had open, but it was across the entire building or all the rooms that my filter contained. In this case, my filter contained all of the rooms across the whole tower. A lot of people ask though, but what if I need the floor to be a different shape than the actual room boundary? What if I need to modify it so that there's different types of floors in the same room? Well, Naviate's new split floor feature allows us to easily split floors up using detail lines to do that. So that we can, in this case, I'm just going to isolate the floor so we can easily see this and draw a line or a spline. It can be any shape. It can be a straight line, a curved line, a spline, a circle, an arc, whatever you need to split up your floor. And then use the Naviate Architecture split floor feature. Select the slab you want to split, select the line you're going to use to split it with, and just like that, we have our floor split. We can change the type and we can customize our design to be what we need it to be. So the flexibility is there for you to easily create your slabs, your ceilings, your finished walls, and modify them if needed to. We spent a lot of times on floors and ceilings, and now let's go back to walls. So curtain grids, curtain walls is probably the thing that I spent a lot of time working on when I was working on different tower projects in New York. We have a lot of skyscrapers that are filled with glass, and we used curtain walls to manage all of that. So I know the pain of having to work on that curtain grid design, where we have to tab to select the curtain grid because there's mullions in the way, there's curtain panels in the way, and then we have to rely on those automatic dimensions to specify how it's offsetted from one another or offsetted from the base. And if the automatic dimension didn't place it correctly, I got to move it, or I have to create an elevation view where I actually add a dimension to get my curtain grid to move the way I want it to move. Especially if the design isn't consistent across the whole thing, right? We have different offsets, so I can't necessarily use the automatic one that's in the type parameters. Well, Naviate's Curtain Grid Manager helps us manage our curtain grid layouts really easily. So let's look at how that's done. Here, I have my little model, and I'm going to use my Curtain Grid Designer and my wall tools to modify the design. So not just can we use this Curtain Grid Designer to create brand new designs from scratch, but also modify existing designs. The Curtain Grid Designer will give me a preview of my design and allow me to delete or modify any of the curtain grids that aren't pinned. So not just can I delete them like I'm showing you here, but I can modify the distance from previous and base offset values. Hitting apply will directly apply it to that selected curtain grid. Not only can I modify this curtain grid, but I can save these offsets as a pattern. So I can use it on multiple different curtain walls across my design. So for example, I'm going to select this curtain wall, and instead of having to repeat that modification, I can simply just select that saved pattern. It's going to pull up the exact one, and then I just have to apply it, and it's going to apply it to that other wall. It will warn me that some things are going to get deleted as expected, of course, but it makes it really easy to make these changes, especially when I'm trying to replicate the same design across multiple walls, as we often do. And not only can I select multiple walls and replicate this design, but then I can make other changes as needed. And then once I have my design done, it's ready to go. So this curtain grid designer really makes it easy to make batch changes to your curtain grid layouts. Lastly, we're gonna look at modeling sloped roofs. Now, I don't know about you, but I have spent a lot of time modeling sloped roofs, and it isn't the easiest thing. And it hasn't changed across Revit in a really long time. You basically have to modify the sub elements, adding different sub elements, moving the points. I usually have to create a section view and figure out how where the points are based off of the slope and different things like that. And this isn't really an easy process. And if the design changes, I have to redo all my calculations, remove my points, and do it all over again. Naviate makes this so much easier with our roof slope features. Here I have my roofs that have no slopes on them yet. So we're going to focus on just one of these roofs and using our roof tools to add our slope to it. Here I have a floor plan where I've kind of just sketched out in detail lines how I want the slope to look, where I want the floor drains to be, and so on and so forth. I'm going to make sure my automatic update is set, and then I'm going to use the slope arrow feature. The first thing is it's going to warn me. We want to make sure that we're placing these slope arrows on the correct plane. So in this case, it's my roof. I have to select my roof. And then we're going to use this slope arrow, which is an annotation element, to actually slope our roof. So in the first instance, I'm actually just going to draw the roof drain. I know that it's going to be at the 0 plane and it's not sloping because this is the low point, right? And as I draw that, you can even see just by adding that annotation, that Naviate slope annotation, it's modifying my roof already. Next, we're actually going to put our slope in. So I want a 1/12 slope, and I'm going to add my first slope arrow onto my roof. You'll see that it did slope it. I got a little warning. We can ignore it for now, but I already now Naviate figured out for me what the high point is, and I'm going to use that and copy it to draw out the high points of the roof. Once I have my high points drawn, I can go back to adding the rest of the slope arrows to the other 3 slopes on this portion of my roof. Like I said, this is just an annotation element that is automatically adding the slopes to it. And let's look at it in 3D, and we can see that exactly what I've drawn using Naviate has been sloped exactly the way I need it to be, exactly the way I wanted it to be. Now we can see that it is sloping at a 1/12 angle, and I can easily just copy all of these Naviate slope annotations to the other parts of the roof, because in this case it's exactly the same, and get the rest of my roof quickly sloped in a matter of seconds. We can see when I copied it, it added it. Let's finish off the rest of the roof, selecting all of those annotation symbols, and copying it to the other part of the roof to finish off our roof slopes. And we can see that it's all been added. My roof has been sloped the way I need it to be, and it really is that easy to get it right. Okay, so that basically sums up all of our Naviate modeling workflows. We looked at placing families, especially from a network or local location. We looked at aligning elements, whether that be aligning our walls so that they're no longer off axis, or aligning elements to other surfaces, like getting all of our doors to be 10 inches from our walls. We looked at creating our finishes based off of our room geometry, creating ceiling and floor finishes, and even splitting those floors using detail lines. We looked at managing our curtain wall layouts by adjusting the spacing of the curtain grids easily with the curtain grid designer. And lastly, we looked at how to use Naviate's roof features to add slopes to our roofs using those Naviate annotation elements. Now, there is so much more within Naviate architecture and accelerates that I didn't get to show you today, whether that be with modeling or other features. So I highly recommend that you check it out and make sure you did download the latest 2023.1.4 release so that you get all of the new features. There are a ton of new features in Naviate Accelerate that you should be taking advantage of. Like I had mentioned earlier, this is part of a Naviate architecture webinar series. Our first webinar on project setup. Our second webinar was on data management. Today we looked at modeling, and next we will look at Naviate document management. We're going to look at how to finish adding all the details to our documentation set, as well as getting it exported out. So stay tuned for the last webinar within this webinar series. I also have some exciting news. We are actually going to AIA 2023. Microdesk will be there. Our booth is 1057. And we will be highlighting both Naviate architecture and one-click LCA. We're really focusing on sustainability, right? So we're going to be looking at our partnership with one-click LCA. We're going to be looking at Naviate architecture, and you might get a sneak peek on Naviate Zero as well, which is our new product. This will be in California and San Francisco. And if you are in the area, we are giving out free expo passes. So please get in touch with our team and we can get you that link to get you a free expo pass. But if you can't make it to California, that is no problem. You'll still be able to catch our last Naviate architecture webinar on June 28th. So I look forward to seeing all of you there. And if you do see me there, please give me a shout out. I can't wait. And for those of you who know, Naviate isn't just a product or a portfolio of products, but I love to highlight that we are an entire community. We have our Naviate license portal, our blog, our ideation portal, our help desk, our e-learning, and our e-store. So with Naviate, we have access to all of this, and our kind of philosophy is we don't want to just create products for you, but we want to work with you because our goal is to, at the end of the day, help y'all work smarter. And just to give a little explanation, our license portal does give you the ability to easily manage all of your Naviate licenses. You can follow our blog for tips and workflows on Naviate solutions. In the ideation portal, you can add your ideas, see other people's ideas. We want Naviate to be for users, by users. You can connect and interact with Naviate users in the Naviate community. Our help desk, you can see product instructional videos and documents. With Pinnacle's e-learning platform, you can find all guides on how to get started with Naviate. And lastly, our e-store makes it easy to buy Naviate, and you can see all of this and more on our website at naviate.com/Naviate for Revit. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, so that you can stay up to date with everything Naviate, know when we have our latest releases, see all of the on-demand webinars and videos, not just in the US, but across the globe, and make sure that you are able to communicate with us. Okay, so let's get started with that Q&A. I see there are some things in the question, so I'm going to pop that out and we can take a look at it. All right, so first question. When will migration from BIMRX to Naviate occur? Great question. This has actively been occurring actually for the last 6 months. So some of the features in Naviate Accelerate that is in this 2020 3.1.4 release are migrated from core. Yes, so things like that move to nearest feature that I show you, that was in Naviate Core, formerly BIMRX Core, that's been moved from Core into Accelerate, as well as all of your favorite core features. I'm going to be showing those in the next webinar as well, like our tagging features, imprint, create table, things like that. So that is still happening. It's an ongoing process. We are currently working on merging MEP and fabrication, our other formerly BIMRX products, into the Naviate, let's say, code base. So this is happening currently as we speak. The cost of Accelerate and Naviate. Great question. So the cost of Accelerate is different per country, but here in the US, Accelerate just at cost is $695 for a 1-year subscription, and Naviate Architecture is $995, one seat for 1 year subscription. When will BIMRX customers be migrated to Naviate? Great question. So some people have already been migrated, but this does depend on the product. So we are working currently to get some different things resolved with the licensing before we migrate all of our core customers to Accelerate. But this will be happening soon, and then we will also then work on getting MEP and fabrication. So when this does happen, don't worry, we will be reaching out to you, working with each customer individually to help you transition and get started. You can always email me or email your account manager to get more details if you have any more questions on the BIMRX to Naviate transition. I hope that answered your questions. I hope it's because you're super excited to use Naviate Accelerate and all the features that it has. Any other questions? I'll give it another minute. If you do have questions, put it into the questions dialogue. Or again, if you feel more comfortable, you can always email us after the fact, contact Macrodesk, call us, and we can answer any of your questions. If there are no other questions, I hope you all have a wonderful day and are able to utilize all of these Naviate features. And hopefully I will see all of you at AIA 2023 in San Francisco.